The defendant is not guilty. But somebody in this courtroom is.
The courtroom is the setting for one of the most memorable scenes in To Kill a Mockingbird. But some of the most critical conversations about race and class happened on a much smaller platform, a porch. When Atticus Finch is first assigned the case of Tom Robinson, a black man accused of raping a white woman, that happens on a porch. Atticus imparting lessons to his daughter Scout, porch. Atticus defending his black client against a lynch mob, porch. In fact, the original screenplay references porches nearly 60 times.
The porch is a space, you can see why it would be so enticing for a movie maker, because it's like a stage in real life.
Rachel Watson is an American literature professor at Howard University and somebody who has written about both the book and film versions of To Kill a Mockingbird.
I'm certainly a little obsessed. That qualifies me as an expert.
She's actually written an essay about the use of porches in To Kill a Mockingbird. Besides being frequently visible throughout the movie, porches help us to understand how the characters view the issue of class and, at times, how they're divided by it too.
One time, Atticus said, "You never really knew a man until you stood in his shoes and walked around in them." Just standing on the Radley porch was enough.
The porch gets emphasized in the film in this way where public space and private space can kind of merge, so that you can imagine somebody's point of view without actually inhabiting their shoes. So that's like the explicit moral of the film, you know, the famous scene where Atticus says to Scout,
You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view.
Sir?
Till you climb inside of his skin, walk around in it.
And there it is, Atticus instilling a lesson about empathy while on a porch. This also happens earlier in the film. Watson says here Harper Lee shows a social pecking order that's visible to the audience.
She uses porches also to as stages to establish sort of public identity and a kind of natural hierarchy between people, so that it doesn't just happen between blacks and whites, it happens between whites of different classes. So when we first meet Walter Cunningham in the beginning of the movie, when he's bringing his entailment payment to Atticus Finch, Atticus is on their back porch receiving the payment, and Atticus and Scout are above Walter Cunningham.
That subtle use of spatial distance conveys the figurative distance between the Finches and Walter Cunningham. This exchange spells out that difference.
Is he poor?
Yes?
Are we poor?
We are indeed.
We as poor as the Cunninghams?
No, not exactly.
Scout's porch-side lessons on empathy and class difference come into play when she confronts a lynch mob, led by Walter Cunningham, on its way to attack Tom Robinson.
It's a kind of a spatial alignment where we have Atticus on the porch protecting Tom, and then Walter Cunningham and the lynch mob is kind of below him. And again, Scout is on the porch with Atticus, able to make eye contact with Walter Cunningham.
She then says this to the familiar face of the mob leader.
You know something, Mr. Cunningham? Entailments are bad. Entailments.
This porch moment illustrates Scout's understanding and the difference, economically and spatially, between the Finches and the lynch mob of poor white farmers who are ready to kill a black man. This example and others show that Lee didn't just use porches as a backdrop, but as dynamic spaces that reveal thoughts about the characters and how they see one another. Audiences will get a chance to revisit To Kill a Mockingbird on Broadway and in other formats as the story is debated,
District officials in Duluth schools have removed the novels To Kill a Mockingbird,
referenced,
Some commentators have called this our Atticus Finch moment,
and celebrated
To Kill a Mockingbird
for years to come.